Grief is a strange thing, isn't it? It doesn't always come wrapped in sadness or tears. Sometimes it shows up as anger, confusion, or even guilt. My story isn't about a perfect relationship or even a good one. It's about the absence of one. When my mother died of cancer, I didn't know how to feel. I didn't cry. I didn't mourn her the way you're supposed to mourn someone you've lost. I was the middle child after all, the one she never really noticed. And if I'm being honest, I never truly loved her. How could I when I spent my whole life feeling invisible to her? But now that she's gone, things have changed. I see her everywhere, wandering, watching, always just out of reach. And when I close my eyes to shut her out, I hear her voice. It's not comforting, it's haunting. I can't escape her, even though I was never close to her in life. So now I have to ask myself the one question I can't shake. Am I the reason she can't find peace? Or is it me who needs to let go? Whatever the answer is, it's waiting in the shadows. And that's where this story begins. It happened the night after her funeral. I couldn't sleep, not because I was mourning, but because something about her death didn't feel real. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the darkness seemed thicker than usual, pressing in from every corner. That's when I saw her. She was there, standing in the corner of my room, partially hidden in shadow, but I knew it was her. Her eyes, hollow yet piercing, stared right through me. She didn't speak. She just raised her hand and waved. The movement was slow, almost mechanical, like she wasn't in control of her own body. And then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she was gone. It wasn't a dream, it wasn't my imagination. She was there, and then she wasn't. Was that wave a gesture of peace? Or something darker, beckoning me into the unknown? After that night, she was everywhere. At first, it was fleeting, a reflection in a window that shouldn't have been there, a shadow moving along the wall when no one else was home. But then it became impossible to ignore. I saw her in crowds, always on the edges, always watching. Her image was fractured and incomplete, sometimes just her silhouette, other times her face, pale and gaunt, her hollow eyes locking onto mine. Each time, she stayed a little longer, lingering just enough to make my heart race. And then one day she mouthed something. Her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I froze, my mind screaming at me to look away, but I couldn't. And just as I started to piece together what she might have been saying, she disappeared again. She wasn't just appearing anymore, she was trying to tell me something, but what? It wasn't long before seeing her wasn't the worst part. The voice came next. It started softly, a whisper just loud enough to make me question whether I'd really heard it. At first, it called my name, not harshly but gently, like she was trying to coax me closer. Then it got louder, more desperate. Phrases like "come with me" and "forgive" echoed in my mind, even when I tried to block them out. I stopped sleeping because every time I closed my eyes, I was back in those moments, watching her waste away, hearing her rasping breaths in her final days. I couldn't escape her. Even with my eyes closed, she was there. Her voice, her presence, her pain. I began to wonder if she wasn't the only ghost haunting me. Her voice forced me to confront things I didn't want to face. The anger I carried, the resentment, and the guilt. I never loved her. How could I? She never showed me love. But now, I wondered, was that why she was still here? Because I hadn't forgiven her for what she wasn't? Or was it something else? Was it me? Was she here because I couldn't forgive myself for how I felt about her? It all came to a head one night. I woke up to find her standing at the foot of my bed. This time, she wasn't a fleeting shadow or a fragmented image. She was there, fully formed, more solid than ever before. Her face looked different, less hollow, more pained. She raised her hand again, just like before. But this time, she spoke. "Come with me," she said, her voice soft but commanding. I couldn't resist. It felt like something was pulling me, guiding me out of my room, out of my world, and into something else. I found myself in a shadowy version of my childhood home. Everything was familiar, yet wrong, distorted, dark, and filled with an oppressive stillness. Her voice wasn't just a whisper anymore, it was a command, and for the first time I couldn't resist. In that shadowy space, she showed me things I had never seen, or perhaps had never let myself see. I saw her watching me from a distance as a child, hesitant to approach. I saw her crying in private, holding on to things that reminded her of me. A drawing, a toy, a photograph. Then she spoke. "I didn't know how to love," she said, her voice trembling. "I failed you." She wasn't cold, she was broken, just like me, and I had never seen it. As her form began to fade, she spoke again, her voice softer, almost pleading. "Forgive me, or yourself." I didn't know what to feel. The anger I'd held onto for so long clashed with an overwhelming sense of loss. I broke down, the weight of everything crashing over me. And in that moment, I whispered the words I didn't think I could say. "I forgive you." Her face softened, and then she was gone. Not like before, but ultimately, leaving nothing behind but silence. For the first time since her death, the air felt lighter. She was gone, but so was the weight. The haunting stopped, but she never indeed left. Sometimes I catch a faint scent in the air, like the perfume she used to wear. Other times, I feel a warmth, as if someone is standing close though no one is there. I know she's at peace now, but as for me, I'm not sure. She was gone, but the question remained. Was it enough to forgive her, or do I still need to forgive myself? Even now, I can't say if it was her forgiveness I needed, or my own. She's gone, but the shadows she left behind, they're still here. Maybe they always will be. And that's the thing about emotions we bury. They don't stay hidden. They find us in the quiet moments, in the stillness of the night. They take shape in the corners of our minds, whispering, waiting. So, I'll leave you with this. What would you do if the one person you couldn't love came back, asking for forgiveness? Would you grant it? Or would you turn away? If this story resonated with you, or sent chills down your spine, let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt haunted by someone you've lost? Maybe not in the way I was, but haunted all the same? Share your story. I'm here to listen. And if you're drawn to the shadows, to the stories that linger in the spaces we can't fully explain, make sure to subscribe. Because sometimes, the scariest ghosts aren't the ones we see, but the ones we feel. And trust me, there's so much more waiting in the darkness.